All right, everyone. Review Realm here. And we ain't done with 2020 yet. We still got
Didn't finish us off.
No, not yet. Not yet, anyway. We still got a bunch of stuff to go over. It's been one hell of a year, 2020. So today, we're going to talk about one of the albums that's going to go around Thanksgiving Day. Hatebreed's newest album, Weight of the False Self. So this is Hatebreed's, I think, 8th studio album. And this is their first album in 4 years since the Concrete Confessional. Hatebreed's been a band, that's been in like the metal and like hardcore genre for quite a while now. And I think the thing that's been most notable about them is they're not really a band that switches it up a whole lot.
They're a straight up hardcore band.
Yeah, and like they like to stick to that. And and that's fine. I mean, I've always expected it from them. I don't expect anything different with them. Yeah, I'm always excited to hear a new release from them, and we finally have that with Weight of the False Self. One thing I want to say right from the start is you hear that title, Weight of the False Self, and this is something I've thought with Hatebreed's last few albums, interesting titles. Like that's been happening with like the last few albums, like the Concrete Confessional, like the Divinity of Purpose. For a band that doesn't really switch it up a whole lot and is pretty like straightforward, interesting album titles.
I mean, I'm not a big Hatebreed guy. I think you're gonna be shocked. I've only listened to like one Hatebreed album start to finish besides this one.
Oh yeah, do you know which one?
No, couldn't tell you. So usually it takes me a couple of listens on an album to kind of be like, okay, let me get a feeling for this. What am I like? What is going on here? There was some memorable stuff on this off the bat. The title track, I love the title track. The lyrics on the title track spoke words. I think that's a thing, and maybe people who listen to Hatebreed more than I do appreciate about them. There's a little bit of meaning behind what they write.
I felt a little bit differently about the title track because that was the first taste of the album, pretty much, and it didn't really, I wasn't really too surprised by it, but when I first heard it, maybe there is a lot of importance in the lyrics that maybe I just didn't pick up on, because I was wondering, I'm listening to this and I'm like, is this the right single to start with? I'm like, what? And they also named the album after it, so I'm like, it must be important to somebody like Jamie Jost.
The lyrics were pretty repetitive, and as big as a prog guy I am, every verse starts off with, if you want to make a difference in the world, it means you have to be different from the world you see.
I do like that line, yeah.
And that, for some reason, repetitive lines don't stick with me. I'm just like, usually it's like garbage, but that line, yeah. Something about that spoke to me. But the rest of the album, I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Every song, you listen to hardcore music. It's a hardcore album.
Yeah, and I think with the next track that they had put out as a single was Instinctive. And, I felt a little bit better going into the album after I heard that. I actually liked that one quite a bit. However, listening to it, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. Slaughterlust isn't a word. I'm like, that's not in the dictionary. But then I learned it's like an inside joke kind of thing on Jamie Jost's podcast. Metal musicians have a tendency to make up these cool words, but they're not actually words. He used like Slayer did it, repentless was an example, because that's not a word. Or revengeance. They sound cool, but they're not words. So I'm like, you know what, Slaughterlust, it sounds cool. I'm like, but I knew right off the bat, I was like, that sounds weird.
It's tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, it's not the most diverse Hatebreed album. I mean, one thing that Hatebreed albums tend to do is they tend to lose their steam. I mean, for me, usually middle of the album. They always start off strong though. Let them all rot, set it right. If Cling to Life was probably my favorite song on the album.
I think there were a couple off like I said, I listened to it once because I listened to it late. There's a couple of songs, I think it was Wings of the Vulture, I really liked. Not a single song cracks in over 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, usually Hatebreed songs are pretty short. In
terms of hardcore music, kind of just as a whole, I mean, I've listened to Hatebreed before. You've listened to Hatebreed before. You know what you're getting into. Mm-hmm. This is Hatebreed. We're throwing an album at you, like it, don't like it, whatever. Okay, I can respect that. And you know what? There was some stuff on this I really enjoyed, which is weird because there's a lot of stuff at the beginning of the year I did not enjoy. Yeah. That just don't click.
Hatebreed always puts out an album that I enjoy listening to no matter what. There was a lot of reminders from previous albums for me, and you don't hear a lot of solos in Hatebreed songs. You do hear quite a few on this album, like in Cling to Life. So a lot of these songs, like, you know, they throw some solos in there. It kind of reminded me of their self-titled album a little bit, which is very good. And, you know, another thing that was another reminder of one of their previous albums was the artwork for Weight of the False Self. It's literally the same guy that did the album, or their album artwork for The Divinity of Purpose. You know, overall, I'm pretty happy with it.
I'm going to give it a couple more listens. I don't feel like this year there was a lot that really stuck out to me, but I think this is definitely one that's worth going back and revisiting and finding other things I like about it.
Yeah, and this is an album that they had to put on the shelf too for a while too because of the pandemic. I'm sure they're happy they got the album out now. You know, bands can't tour albums right now, which sucks, but you know, I think bands are trying to make up for it and at least get the album out there. And you know, like as far as all of Hatebreed's albums go, I think I'd probably put it on the lower end. The last two albums were a little bit more memorable to me. You know, still a decent release, so I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
I mean, this was my first time listening to my second Hatebreed listen. Thought it was decent. I'd give it a 7 out of 10 after the first listen. Not so much as I don't like anything on it. I mean, yeah, stuff is repetitive, but it's something I guess you would expect with hardcore music. You know, for a first listen, I mean, I don't really have too many complaints about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is an album I wouldn't mind having on, and you know, definitely it's still going to be an album I'm going to be thinking about, you know, when I'm putting together, you know, a possible top 10 for later this year. So we'll see where it goes. That's our thoughts on Weight of the False Self. Definitely let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below. You know, make sure you check out all of our social media pages. You know, definitely subscribe on here if you're new to us. And we're going to see you for the next album review. We ain't done.
Not done.